Good morning all. Louis Miguel Alexa from HowardSmith Projects. As the Managing Director of our business here in Australia, we tokenise real estate property with my co-founder, Linda Alexo. We decided it around 2 years ago to start this journey to provide access to tokenised real estate here in Australia, providing access to the rest of the world, purely focusing on real estate here in Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, which is what we call the Southeast Queensland, which some great things happening. We are the recently announced Olympic City for 2032 here in Brisbane, so some great things ahead from that. But yeah, look, today is what I call the brick walk. So today I didn't walk. There's a bit of walk, but it was more of a brick ride today. So I got the bike today. Stopped here at halfway mark here at HowardSmith Wharves. So which, as you can see, got the Brisbane CBD in the background. So we're just only a walkway away from the city. We're probably around 3 miles away from the Brick Koala property, our current tokenised property that people can buy property tokens in. But what I thought I'd do today is without getting too deep, but sort of covering off what problems we were trying to solve when we actually started this journey. As most of you or some of you don't know, as some of the ones that don't know, we run brick Q&As every week. We're adding some more this week, which I'll sort of cover on after. But the objective of that is basically to inform, educate people in terms of the new frontier of real estate, what you can do in terms of accessing real estate for as little as $80 in our case for one property token. We can buy many. So again, just the new frontier that property is lumpy and it's very high cost to entry, different problems across different countries around the world. But I just want to sort of keep it very simple and sort of cover on what problems we were trying to solve when we started our journey. And again, we've been doing property, myself as an accountant for over 25 years. I think it's on the 28th year now. As a CPA here in Australia, so for us, we've been from the background of businesses, small to medium-sized business, family businesses, us also being a family business ourselves, and also the heavy involved with property, doing property for ourselves. So whether it be new builds, whether it be renovations, particularly around the residential part of things, is what our focus has been, for over 25 years. Again, we sort of 2 years ago, through blockchain, we looked at we could be doing what we're doing, and as we move on in terms of our family business from the property perspective, but we felt that there was something greater we could contribute to the world from a property perspective, that sort of would make us feel more having an impact on people around the world that never have access to property. And obviously through blockchain, we found a solution to how we could actually achieve our vision to provide access to anybody from all corners of the earth in terms of being on a journey with us to access real estate property. So if I sort of go back and in terms of what the problems were, and again, I've just got a couple of notes here that I want to sort of refer to, without going too deep and philosophical about things. But again, there's two areas that I'll break it up into. You've got developing countries. Now, developing countries have got a different set of problems from developed countries. When I mention developing countries, we're talking about developing countries in Africa, we're talking about developing countries in Asia, in South America, and some of the islands, Pacific Islands and so forth around the world. And again, the real problems there is basically, well, there's a few problems in that part of the world when we're talking about developing countries. Obviously, without getting too political, there's a lot of corruption, typically in those countries. You've got people that never had the chance to actually bank so what we refer to them as unbanked. And those people, they could bank, some of them could bank, but the transaction costs to actually bank is actually it's equivalent to some countries to actually feeding their family for a week or for a month in terms of the transaction costs charged by those banks in those developing countries. So again, you've got a large part of the population in those developing countries that never banked before. So not banking, that means you can't access loans to buy properties, to start a business. So you've got all those issues there for people that never banked before, or basically just not practical to bank in some cases. And then you've got some countries like Ghana who just recently introduced an e-tax. So anything being paid by mobile over the internet, now they're charging 1.75%. So you've got countries like that obviously there's a friction in terms of the adoption of blockchain, adoption of cryptocurrencies. So again, those countries see that, again, not to get too political, it's that sort of short-term mentality that they think they can generate revenue from this new frontier of e-commerce, and obviously you've got different forms. You've got blockchain and non-blockchain related e-transactions. But then you've got countries who are actually seeing the opportunity, and probably just go back to places like that are basically restricting the use of cryptocurrency because they're taxing, as I said, with Ghana as an example. Now, it's actually quite unfortunate, because if those countries thought sort of in the future, long term, they can actually see that the more activity there are in those transactions, the more taxes it generates for those governments. Because at the end of the day, by putting an e-tax in place, it drives people to use cash. We know what the cash economy does. Cash economy basically then doesn't, there's no trace from a system perspective for people to then be able to pay taxes. Well, basically avoid taxes, to be blunt. A lot of businesses using cash will end up avoiding paying taxes because there's no record. So again, you might be putting this in place to generate some short-term taxes as far as an e-tax is concerned. But what these countries are actually doing are basically then shooting themselves in the foot, because they're not going to be generating your income taxes, or your value-added taxes, and all the other taxes that could be generated from those transactions going through the system, because people are using cash, and the cash economy, we all know what the cash economies do, and all the negatives that comes with for any government around the world. So if I just now touch on El Salvador, the president of El Salvador 12 months ago, they talk a different tune. They wanted to change the lives of people. When you've got developing countries, whether you're in Africa, again, whether South America or Asia, and Pacific Islands, you've got a huge problem with inflation. So what you have in the bank today, $100, and the buying power of that next week or next year is actually less. So rather than being $100 today, 12 months time might only be $50, in some cases worse. So these are the problems some of the developing countries are experiencing. El Salvador, obviously at the extreme, the hyperinflation. A few years ago, they basically decided to rip up their local currency and adopt US dollars to be able to move forward. But it's still a major problem. So for them, there's still a major problem, because at the end of the day, you've still got inflationary issues in El Salvador. So 12 months ago, and you take my hat off to the president of El Salvador, he decided to adopt Bitcoin as their legal currency, So that means now you've got a currency that's obviously a fixed supply of Bitcoin that's ever going up in value. So people are actually paying with Bitcoin for their groceries over there. So when they adopted that 12 months ago, they set the journey that they gave $30 to everybody to use to start their journey with them using Bitcoin as a currency. And I actually watched the Bitcoin conference in Miami last weekend, in Miami, Florida, where the Minister for the Economy of El Salvador gave a bit of feedback in terms of what had happened over the past 12 months. and the change that it's made to their country in such a short period of time has been quite substantial. So she was saying basically now you've got basic people in regional areas of El Salvador being able to use Bitcoin as a currency. So your local stores, people can pay in Bitcoin. So now basically, as we know, Bitcoin is a good store of value and will continue to be so in many years to come. People now can actually get ahead in life. They can have that 10 Bitcoins. They can have one Bitcoin, which is obviously always the short-term goal for anybody, to have that one Bitcoin. But knowing that what if even they've got fractions of the Bitcoin, they can actually now knowing that currency is going up in value as opposed to depreciating every month, every year. And again, one of the problems also in El Salvador, they have a lot of people that any young persons that comes through El Salvador, their dream is to go and work in the US. So a lot of those people then work in the US, send money back to their family, US dollars back to their family. The problem with that is that transactional cost, the clunkiness of transferring funds, international funds from US to El Salvador. There's huge transaction costs, and that eats away from that money that people could be getting to use to live in places like El Salvador. So again, Bitcoin is solving that problem for them. So now they can transfer the Bitcoin from the US to the accounts in El Salvador, knowing that there is no friction, there's no lost in transactional costs like they've been used to before. So again, it's a game changer for El Salvador. It's countries like El Salvador, with the leadership of the president, who actually see long term what it'll do for its people, and gets people out of that cycle they've been, that they just don't get anywhere in life. So again, El Salvador has set a blueprint, especially for developing countries, to get ahead in terms of their future and the future aspirations for their people, their goals and dreams, and now it's all attainable now. If I now switch to the second part in terms of talking about developing countries got a different set of problems, in a sense that we got ever increasing property values. So if we look back 10 years and we look in terms of what prices were for houses back 10 years ago and what they are now, is obviously quite a substantial difference. Doesn't matter, and that's talking about majority part of the world, in developing countries. I know here in Australia, as a rule of thumb, properties go up, double up every 10 years. So what was $500,000 10 years ago, it's now $1 million for that same property. Again, at the extreme level, you've got places like New York, like London, like Florida, in Miami in particular. To buy a property in those places is just not attainable for the average person. So again, we've got ever increasing rise in property values. Access to debt's becoming restricted, because at the end of the day, wages don't go up that much. If we have a look what you were earning 10 years ago as a wage, I'm not talking about business owners here, I'm talking people who are on wages, and you have a look in terms of what you're earning 10 years ago, and you compare that to the property values increase, it's chalk and cheese. I can assure you it doesn't matter what part of a developing country you're at, whether you're in Australia, whether in America, whether you're in UK, Europe. If you have a look what you're earning in your wages 10 years ago and what you're earning now, there hasn't been much of an increase. But you compare that to the property values, in some cases, a lot of cases, especially in Australia, you've doubled up in price. And there's no way here in Australia that anyone has been actually doubled up in, for the average wage earner. You'd be lucky to be around 10%, 20% at most in terms of your wage rises, but not 100%, like in terms of what's happened in property here in Australia in the past 10 years. So again, it's if we start talking, I don't want to go too much into the economic side of things, but just trying to keep it simple. But basically, there's massive inflationary issues that's going to be hyperinflating in a lot of countries around the world, given after COVID. We've got wages that aren't going to be increasing that much. There is a wage shortages across the world, but the wages won't be increasing that much, because I think we're at the sort of crossroads over the next couple of years. From if you look at the economies around the world, we are at crossroads, given how much money printing has been done to fund COVID programs in terms of the recovery. But at the end of the day, you can't just keep printing money. There's consequences of that, and the people who understand a bit about how economics works, you know what the issues are. And again, so I don't want to go deep into it. I just want to keep it simple. So we've got massive inflationary issues. We've got a bit of an unrest. I see it over the next few years because of those inflationary problems. But that sort of covers in terms of what the problems developing countries have. So access to debt is an issue. People want to buy property, got obviously property that's being increased in value substantially. Wages haven't gone up that much. So again, in terms of the ability to fund a loan, in terms of your ability to be in a position that you can pay off the debt, given the issues around it, is quite critical. So banks look at serviceability and can you service a loan, let alone in terms of having an equity position in the property. But serviceability is a major issue that's happening in terms of people accessing debt. But just so throughout all these problems that what we were trying to solve in different parts of the world, developing countries and developed countries, and I'm a big believer that if you chuck up what problems out there, you need to come up with a solution. And I guess that's what we did. We came up with a solution to cater for both developing countries and developed countries that addresses that issue. If we have a look in terms of in going forward, and the issue is around inflation, as I mentioned before, and buying power, and in terms of the ability for people to access property. In my view, in terms of where people can protect themselves, they need to have some hard assets to protect their position. Whether you're a small wealth portfolio, whether you're a large wealth portfolio, doesn't matter. I think in your portfolio, in terms of your wealth, you need to have some hard assets in there to give you that stability in terms of your wealth. As I said before, we've got countries like Brazil, people who've got a lot of wealth, who've done very well over the years. Their biggest concern is that they might have $100 million in the bank, but they're concerned that $100 million in next year might only be $80 million. So I know that's the extreme, but we've also got the same issues with people with lesser amounts in the bank. But you need to have some hard assets to be able to give that stability. Obviously, there's a massive wave in terms of cryptocurrency, in terms of blockchain, different projects on the blockchains in terms of talking about cryptocurrencies, you're talking about NFTs, you're talking about different other projects in terms of DeFi, gaming, so all the different sub areas of the blockchain, our blockchain industry. And so I guess in terms of where Bitcoin, for example, is going, and which I think people need to sort of understand that that especially people who are big advocates of Bitcoin. I'm a big believer that it's the rising tides mentality. I think everybody needs to have that rising tides mentality. Rising tides raises all boats. So if Bitcoin's successful in terms of which is obviously has some great success already, if it's successful, all other blockchain related projects, whether it be other projects like Ethereum, like Ravencoin, whether it be property tokenization projects like ours, whether it be DeFi projects, again, all boats rise. If Bitcoin rises, all the other projects rises, and vice versa. So again, in terms of other projects being successful, Bitcoin's going to be successful as well, because at the end of the day, projects on the blockchain have different uses and have different strengths. Obviously, Bitcoin is obviously a store of value, just like gold, but the modern day version of gold is what Bitcoin is. We've got Ravencoin chain, which is the chain we mint on our property tokens. Its strengths lies in tokenizing assets on the Ravencoin chain. So its strengths lie in that particular area. So again, it's you have to have respect for what each project does on a blockchain, and not just sort of be so narrow-minded. People need to be open-minded and respect in terms of the use of each project, in terms of what their intentions are. And as I said, Ravencoin, in terms of tokenizing assets on the Ravencoin chain, which is the little brother of Bitcoin. That's the fundamentals. It started with the Bitcoin fundamentals, and then added in terms of its point of difference being to be able to tokenize assets on the Ravencoin chain. So I think people have to be sort of be open-minded around that, and keep in mind the rising tides mentality. But yeah, so in terms of what problems we're trying to solve, we're basically, we like to think that our Brick BC property tokens is a hybrid token. We don't call it a security token, which is not a security token. We call it a hybrid token. So it gives the stability of a stable coin, because stable coins, for people that do know, or if you're not aware, the way stable coins work is basically like a USDC, for example. It's backed by US dollars. So $1 US dollar today of a stable coin, it'll be worth $1 tomorrow. It's $1 in 10 years, $1 in 100 years. So the objective of the stable coin, it doesn't change, regardless what the market does. It never changes its value. So we'd like to see that our brick tokens, property tokens, it's got the stability of that, so it never goes down in price. It always stays at least at that. That's a worst case scenario. But naturally, obviously, with property values going up, and we see obviously quite a huge upswing in the next few years with properties. So it's not going to be the matter of the rule of thumb that doubles every 10 years. We see our properties here that we're focusing on be around 3.5 times its value. Okay, Siri just kicked in there. So, just continue on that. So what I was saying was that, so property here doubles every 10 years, but given some of the special circumstances that are happening here, we see property values, the ones we're focusing on anyway, in terms of Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, will be around 3.5 times its current value in 10 years' time. So as I said, we've got the Olympics in 10 years' time, but there are other things in play that basically will allow to give that those type of returns. So our property tokens have got the increase in the property value side of things. Also, we got the way we've done our model with the net rent that's generated each month, invest into a crypto portfolio. So we got the exposure to a cryptocurrency in there, in that specific token series. And also we've got some NFTs in there, that's NFT art pieces we buy for the property. So in essence, we've got 3 assets. We've got 3 assets in there. We've got the core asset, which is obviously the real estate property. We've got a crypto portfolio that's going to be accumulating from the net rent. And we've got some a dozen NFTs, art pieces for our property that's also classed as an asset. So again, we see that as a way to solve the problem in terms of providing access to anybody from all corners of the world for as little as $80 per token. So our current token series is called Brick Koala. So it's a property which is around 3 miles from here where I am now. So it's 3 miles from the Brisbane city, because we've got the city just in the background here. So it's a fairly close to the CBD in Brisbane. So again, we see this as a way to provide access to anybody around the world for as little as $80. And you can buy one, you can buy many, so there's no restrictions. So again, we see that as a way to solve the problem, so people can actually build a wealth to be financially free. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're from. All you need is a mobile. You've got a mobile, you've got access to the internet, you've got access to our property tokens platform. So have a look at our website for details there. Have a look at our Twitter. We post a lot on Twitter. We've got some Q&As coming up this week. We've got the what I call the marathon, brick Q&A marathon this week, which is between Tuesday and Wednesday, US Eastern Standard Time. It's all on the Twitter there that we post up, the times and so forth. We've also got our weekly What is Real Estate Tokenization, So we've got that coming up, where I'm joined by my co-host Jake, and we've got a special guest coming along as well. We've been dropping hints who that is. So it's a lady who's a serial real estate investor in the US, and she's going to be providing her thoughts and her experiences, and challenging her thoughts around real estate tokenization as an add-on to her traditional real estate portfolio. So we'll be dropping hints, keep an eye on that. But yeah, also before I wrap it up, and again, as I said, we've got details in terms of how we can buy our brick koala property tokens. It's on the website, it's on Twitter. Have a look at that. We've got Discord, we've got TikTok, we've got Telegram. So it's all on the website, and there's links to our social media platforms. But where we're most active is on Twitter. That's where we like that. We've got YouTube as well, some videos there obviously. But where we're most active is on Twitter in terms of what's happening at any given time. So check that out. But probably just a shout out to some people who haven't been all that well, who are part of the community, the brick family, and the Ravencorn community. Shout out to Crypto Rumor. Crypto Rumor just got COVID, so he's recovering. Get well, mate, and make sure you do all the right things to recover well. And hopefully you'd enjoy that the solution that I tweeted to you this early today. Hope that gives you the right solution as a cure for COVID. I know you enjoyed that. Also, shout out to Crypto Lisa. She was actually at the Bitcoin conference over the weekend. She wasn't too well. She's going for an operation today. So shout out, everything goes well with the operation, Crypto Lisa. We're all behind you. Hope everything goes well with the operation. Speedy recovery from it. So take care. But yeah, look, it's I think I'll wrap things up now. As part of my brick walk today, it's a longer one today, but again, just a matter of it was about covering. So without getting too emotional about that, is that as I said, in terms of we're helping, trying to provide a solution for people that are looking for that financial freedom. Doesn't matter what part of the world, in having access to real estate property through our platform, and hopefully people see that as an opportunity to get ahead in life. And I'll make it very clear as a disclaimer, this is not financial advice. This is very much us providing information, educating what people can do. It's up to you to do your research. And if you think in terms of if our property tokens are something that you can see that buying into to help you as part of your journey around that financial freedom, then we welcome you on board. But as I said, this is not financial advice. Hope you all have a fantastic evening, afternoon, morning, depending where you're at, and take care, stay safe. Bye for now.